Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly world session that we do every Tuesday at noon. You can join us. Just email leurbanretreat@gmail.com. We'll get it to you. Today is August 18th, 2026, and the group has come to this kind of conclusion of how we need to deal with relationships in life and where respect lies, where we're going to, um, how we're going to work to create relationships. So this all arose from loneliness. And usually we end up complaining that we don't have friendships, etc. And I posed the question, well, is creating relationships as difficult as getting a master's or a PhD, even, or is it really easy? And some people said, oh, no, it should be really easy. And I said, for me, no, it's not really easy. It's quite difficult. You need a PhD. Why? There are too many variables. So we're working with all the variables like respect and being able uh, to acquire respect. We need to earn respect from others, and they need to earn our respect. And then we need a lot of discernment in the in. So that's what we're going to work through. Are a few categories like patience, presence, awareness, attention. When we're looking at different relationships and how we're going to deal with those relationships through the small intestine and the heart. So if you're in your heart and you just want to have compassion for everyone and you just want to love everyone and you have um no no's, I would say. You're not actually able to say no to someone, or you're not actually able to discern. um Actually, we need to go back a bit, because when you're just meeting someone, the thing that we do is sometimes some people don't, some people put up a lot of boundaries, and other people, kind of just go, wow, it's a new person, I really like this person, and open up. We'll deal with both. So some are completely closed, they won't let someone in, they can be mistrustful, they will not give an inch. Okay, so we'll work with that, as well as the other extreme, where several people in my group, including myself, we're like, open arms, come on in. And then we're burnt. Okay. So that works very nicely, right? It's okay um, to do either of them because we keep learning. So we don't want to start with an idea that it's bad to be either of these ways. So if I'm really open, I will eventually get burnt. The moment I get burnt, that lets me know where my boundary is. I will not accept that. Okay. Or I will not live with that. So that's a good thing. The problem is the other person kind of gets tossed aside because we blame the other person for incapacity to have a boundary. Then there are others who are super close because they have all their stuff that's going on within them, and they think that somebody has to break through that. That's difficult too, is waiting for someone to break through all those parameters. So what we want to do is, using these parameters, is allow the small intestine to start adjusting. So wherever I'm going to look at myself, wherever I have a wall that is really, really thick and I don't want to let anybody in, I want the small intestine to start making that a little bit more flexible. That flexibility also needs to go into the neuroplasticity of my brain. My brain needs to keep adapting, as well as my small intestine, and the gut brain keeps adapting. Then we have a third brain in the heart. You have to be so careful as not to be suicidally empathetic. That's a term from Gad Sad, which I just think is so wonderful. But that I've been looking at that for eons, how women tend to hurt themselves um, and hurt others for the benefit of others. Yeah. So how would that look? If your child, this isn't being a brat, this isn't being disobedient. If your child does not, let's say, when we were young, we were told, kiss this person. And whatever people came into the house, the family knew them. So they had already given the sign of respect and approval to that individual. And we were supposed to kiss them. All right. But what if they really didn't evaluate this person? What if they were not evaluated? And you get a child who's super intuitive and goes, no, I don't want to kiss that person. I don't want to do that. And now the child is forced to do it. And then there's the other circumstance where children are um, not being appropriate to adults, right? You're invited to someone's house. You're supposed to say hello. You can, give your hand. You greet the people in the house, whatever it is, whatever the way is. You don't have to kiss them. I mean, that's kind of old fashioned these days. But you're going to give the respects to the people who live in the house and own the house, and you're going to address them. That is just part of the social contract. That is just part of the way we behave and we deal with. It is giving, not respect you, but I'm respecting the parameters of the paradigm I'm in. Right? Very different from, I don't know yet if I can respect you as an individual, but I will respect the contract. The contract is I'm invited to your home. I don't know what people's contracts are. I'm a Greek, so our contract is you always bring a gift when you go to someone's home. So you bring your gift. It doesn't matter what it is, a cookie, whatever it is. So we do that. But you can't cross. We have so many different cultures. I'm Greek, born in Canada, third generation. We've been here over 100 years. And I know the Canadian customs, and Canadian customs don't necessarily do that. Right. So, you don't have to. You can go to someone's house and not bring something. And we do that as well. I'm just pointing out those kind of impositions need to be excluded from the small intestine that are personal to your culture. Now, if I'm going to a Greek house, the Greek house expects me to bring something, so I'll bring it because that's my culture. Now, if I didn't know, well, who cares? They would just accept that you don't know. Right? These are beautiful ways to deal with things. Those are the boundaries. And maybe you learn later, oh, well, they came to my house and they brought something. It's a nice thing. I kind of like it. Or you say, they brought something to my house. I don't really care. I don't care that they brought it. They didn't have to. It's not my way of doing things. I'm not going to do it. And then from there, you could say, well, I know a lot of people in the past. This might not happen today, but in the past have complained about those things. Oh, they didn't bring something and blah, blah, blah. Usually in the Greek avenues, right? They would do that. And I would just kind of think, well, they just don't. And who cares? Like, why do you care? Because I'm not flexible. I want my way or the highway. So this is what we're working with in neuroplasticity and the gut, that there can be different cultures living together. We understand the different cultures. We may or may not adapt to them. That can be fine in someone's home, right? In someone's home. The respect in the social contract outside is different, right? And I'm not being completely clear on this because I want to make sure that there's enough space for the flexibility to continue, because this can be a long-standing talk, right? We can go on and on discussing how these things work. We do need to have an agreement. I may not be doing what your culture is doing. You may not be doing what my culture is doing. But when I go out into Canada, I don't impose Greek culture onto Canada. That would be my point. Greek, like how Greeks do things, I'm not going to sit around and tell all the Canadians. I'll tell my Canadian friends, this is the way we do things in our culture, but you're not obliged to, which none of my Canadian friends did oblige that. They just did it their way. So that said, kind of feel into your small intestine and think about your subjects where you might be a little bit rigid and areas where you might be a little bit too flexible, too accepting. And usually that involves your feminine. Remember, your feminine is on the left side of the body, right side of the brain. I mean, it's not quite just situated like that, but you can think about things that way. You kind of feel, I'm feeling in the lower left quadrant, some movement, especially when I said the words too accepting. So I know my body was responding to that and kind of going, ooh, yeah, you've got a few areas that are too accepting. And I'm trying to repeat to myself the areas where it's rejecting. I don't have a lot of reaction to that. So, hopefully the session's going to balance those things a little bit more. Now, nothing in our boundaries remains static, if that makes sense, right? Today I can wake up, I might accept many invitations, I might accept more sessions than I usually accept. I might accept doing extra work for people. Uh, I might do that because I'm rested and I'm feeling good. But if I wake up tomorrow after a really hectic day, I may not do that. So my boundaries are flexible. Everyone's boundaries are flexible. You want to tune into that, not make an excuse for it. Just know, oh, not able to do that. That's all you need to know. I can, I can't. So, like there are days I can wake up and, I can do so many things and I love it and it's so much fun. And then there are other days I wake up and go, oh, I was expecting I would have a day like yesterday where I was gung ho. And I'm just kind of like sitting there, super tired. So remember, your boundaries, that's just the tiredness boundary. That's just the activity boundary, right? There are so many different boundaries, like who you're going to let in your house, who you're going to allow in your life, which goes back to loneliness and what we need to do. We cannot be lackadaisical, nor too lazy, nor indolent when it comes to creating friendships and relationships. We want to have our judgment nice and refined. Judging, let's say, based on you know, the way people do things. Um, this is hard to, I don't want to put any parameters here. There are some things that are just ridiculous to judge. If you find you're in that rigid place, start questioning yourself. That's what would need to happen. And if you're all accepting, you need to start questioning, you know, is everything that I accept okay? Weeks later, months later, years later, and you might look back on your life and go, "Wow, I accepted some things in my life that, I shouldn't have done so." Those are questions you can pose for yourself to continue this work. All right, it's a very complex session today. Remember, we're working with the brain, neuroplasticity to help support the movement of your boundaries and changing of those boundaries. They need to change, especially if you're, where you find areas where you're too rigid and areas where you're too open. Okay. These are not flaws. They would only be bad if they end up harming you or harming others. Okay. So I mean, we can't sit around and say, okay, I can control whether I harm others. Not necessarily, but there is a certain amount, right? So if I'm, feel bad for everyone and I start spending all my money on other people to take care of them because they don't have, well, then what happens to the people around me? My family doesn't have, my pets don't have, right? So, there's always a place where that boundary belongs. You're taking care of your loved ones first. Now, a lot of people tell me, no, no, you don't have to take care of your loved ones first. You shouldn't, family shouldn't be more important. That's something for you to decide as a value. I'll just let you know, if you believe family should come second to others. Um, yeah, this practitioner is probably not for you. And that doesn't mean if you, whoever your family is, like whoever you consider your family, they need to come first. If you've created a new family, like your original family's died or they're gone or they're not part of your life now, that's fine. It's not about that. It's whoever you consider family. Those would be the people that you're cultivating relationships with, that you're supporting, um, emotionally, mentally, physically. Those are the people that you put first, and that's just fine. Not 100% of the time, right? Like, my partner might need something, but then, a friend might need something, and I evaluate. That's where the discernment comes in. And as you can see, it's a very, very complex topic. There's something else that's been bugging me that I brought up at the beginning, and not in the audio, but I brought up at the beginning with the group, that was rudeness and interruptions, right? These two categories together, where someone thinks that interrupting or tone or that kind of thing is rude, and they want to control someone else's behavior, uh, or tell them it's rude, like insult them by saying it's rude. That's really rude what you're doing. It's kind of cool that you could just go, well, I don't really care about being rude. Now, the one side of that is, care about being rude, you might find your people who are okay with being rude. Things like interrupting, things like speaking over, things like arguing about everything, like stuff like that. Anyway, very happy to continue doing that. And then some people don't like the interruptions, as I'm bringing up. And it's like, okay, but I don't care about interruptions. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, because rude is often in the eyes of the beholder. So who's going to determine what's rude? That's where you have to go back to your boundaries and say, well, that's rude. I feel that's rude. I believe that to be rude. That's not how you deal with a social contract. We're not, we're just going to be friends in another way, or you're just going to be one of my acquaintances. You're not going to be my friend. That's where your boundaries are flexible. If you think someone's rude, fine. It's a flexible boundary. You need to know how to behave when someone is rude. Like, how, I think, right, I go to these extreme examples. How would I behave if I'm walking down the street and someone picks up their feces and throws it at me? I have no idea what I would do. I'd probably start like shuffling away, something like that. I don't think I'd start to, attack or anything like that. Maybe just call the police and say there's a feces flinger somewhere. So that's a different kind of rudeness. Um, and again, that won't be accepted in the social contract because that's considered assault, right? So we have decided this is the kind of society we want to have. We don't want to be walking down the street and worried about whether someone's going to fling feces. Okay. So it's just a feel into the difference, because I'm sure so many of you are coming up with all these examples and wondering how. What you're figuring out is, how do I want to live in the world? I'm going to live quite differently in my home. I'm not going to live the same way as I live out in the world. Like out in the world, I'm not going to walk around naked. But in my home, yes, I will go and walk around naked. So these are things that we want to differentiate. So we know that, like, what about those people that I remember in the 70s that used to, the family was naked all the time? I think there are people who exist like that now. I mean, I don't think I'd go over. I'm not going to walk around naked with a family and their kids, but some people do it. They're just fine with it. So it's really just deciding where you're at. But in society, it's not just about you, it's about everyone. Yes. Okay. I think that's clearly understood. I hope. Okay. And it's like, okay, sure, rude, interruptions. I found that really interesting. The people who tell me I interrupt are the people who interrupt most in my life. And I found that really fascinating as a discovery. I just go, what? Like, why do you care whether they interrupt? You're interrupting all the time. I don't say it out loud. I just in my head, I'm like, why do they care when they're interrupting all the time? And so I just ignored it till the point where it's like, you're interrupting me. And I'm like, but I don't care. So not caring in certain aspects is just fine. Not caring as a defense is not okay. It's not okay for anyone. Yeah, I feel like this needs to be a lecture put on a CD for like 12 to 30 years. It's a very long one. But hopefully we've triggered some areas in the small intestine, your brain, and your heartbreak so that they start to communicate in a way that, yes, I can think about what's going on rather than just assuming that the gut brain can help with the spontaneous responses and that there is not excessive or inadequate amounts of compassion. And one other thing, because I just love these treatments that have been going on, we're going to do the mitochondria. So think about for a moment how much time you would spend being pissed off, upset about someone who was rude towards you, about someone who crossed your boundaries, about someone who you think disrespected you, and think about where you didn't have compassion, right? So if somebody disrespects you, let's say they've had predictable behavior and you know how they're going to behave, and then one day they act really weird. Well, or they're rude or something. You would just go, "Whoa, what's wrong with you? What's happening? What's going on in your life? You don't act like this." And that would be the right amount of compassion. But if somebody's acting like that all the time, badly, all the time, and you just keep saying, okay, 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 and one day you explode, you're in trouble. They're fine. They're going to act the way they act, but you're in trouble. So those are the kinds of things we want to look at as well. I think we're good. That's a lot. So I'm just bringing that around to the mitochondria where a lot of that thinking that is useless can absorb our mitochondrial function. Right. So if I'm thinking about, oh, that person didn't behave properly and blah, blah, blah. If they didn't behave properly, it should be an oddity to you. And you would turn around and go, oh, what's going on with you? Okay. Now, if somebody's behaving like that consistently and you are constantly complaining about it, you are in a drama. Or a third one, if you go from person to person and you find they're all behaving in the same way and you keep going, why do I attract these people? Well, that's where you can go back to yourself and say, it's not just that I'm attracting these people, it's that I'm accepting them. And I haven't stepped up to the plate to decide what is the next step I want. Whatever we have in our lives is somewhere we're complicit. Right? I mean, obviously I could be wrong, but so I really believe that I'm complicit in the space that I'm in. I am not a victim to what's going on. I am complicit. And if I start to recognize, well, I'm complicit, what did I comply to? I said yes. So if I'm talking to someone that I don't enjoy and I keep talking to them and then I meet up with them the next day, no kidding, I complied. And then I'm going to keep myself at that level and I'm going to keep attracting people like that. So instead, I might pull back, pull my resources and go, what am I interested in? What am I doing? What do I need to raise? And see what happens. Because we have to become the quality we want to see in our lives. We have to. We can't just sit around and say, I'm waiting for that quality to arrive because I think I'm super cool. I think I'm the best thing. That's where we have to just, go to our university and get our little master's or PhD in relationships, relating. We have to know ourselves. All right, everyone. So the animals are screaming. So I'm going to let you all go and have a great week. Till next week. Love you all. Bye.